Hi guys, thank you very much for being here. Paulina talking to you about incredible transit of Uranus through Taurus. It is now a little late. I have not been on time with this video, but it is going through Taurus from 2018 till 2026, and for all of you buffs out there, this is going to be some interesting information. So this is not important now, and perhaps this is why I've been prevented from doing this video earlier. But how you've come out of Uranus transit through Aries is exactly what you'll receive with Uranus and Taurus. So globally, Aries is the global self. It is the global call of here I am. And Taurus is the global sense of worth. Who you are and what you're worth. Aries and Taurus. This is incredible. This is incredible because I'm just starting to fully feel it now, as it's kind of gone in quite a way into Taurus. This is not really about extravagance, you guys. This is actually about your self-interest, your credibility, and your worth that you have discovered hopefully through the Arian transit of Uranus. So what to do here is to no longer hope for more. It's not so much about manifestation. It is not about clasping and grasping for the things that you want, and it's not about changing what you desire, but it is more in terms of what you give is what you get. How you identify on all angles for most people is what you will receive in the Uranus transit of Taurus. So however you're receiving now, you should already be seeing perhaps as to why or how you are not or overachieving. It might be very, very obvious here. If you are looking at yourself for the last 6 or 7 years, you might see why perhaps you have manifested what you've achieved for a while, and perhaps it is only now coming to terms with itself. So how are you? Do you feel guilt? Do you feel lack? Do you feel abandonment? Do you feel like you're abandoning another person? That's the thing here with Uranus, because after Aries, it should have a very good self-esteem. There should be no qualms with the past. For the last 7 to 9 years, there's been probably a nice grafting process of who we were as people, and there could have been a lot of really, really innocent and perhaps not so innocent things that you could have done. This is because Uranus in Aries was really traumatizing for some that really wanted to abandon the previous precepts of themselves, and also the previous conditionings and condemnations of their society or of their family. We were shedding conditioning a lot, like no other time. We really had a huge opportunity to sculpt our bodies and to sculpt ourselves. But if you have just sort of come to this reality check that you want to receive more, or you want to abandon the previous self, please stop. Okay, you guys, for the last few years, we really did do it. Okay, we tried, and for some of us it was a shocking change, and for others it wasn't. But here now, Uranus and Taurus, we don't really need to any longer touch on ourselves. We don't need to any longer check ourselves out. We don't have to hear any more worry or speculate about who we could have been, where we could have invested our time in order to preserve self or evolve self, in order to connect to greater wisdom or bigger schemes. It is done. So how you are, what you look like, how you feel to yourself, and what you have developed inside and outside with Uranus and Aries, how you have really broken through your conditioning, how you have really sung the tune of your people or sung the tune of you, how you have really expanded and perhaps even exploded out of the previous box laid for you by society, by your parents, and by your schooling. However, you can just connect. We don't need to celebrate here. We don't really need to take it to a big extreme now. There was a time. But now it's more about connecting. Oh, okay. So for example, I had to go through a lot of trauma just to stop seeing myself in a certain way. Oh wow, okay, I had to go through a lot of, like, say, drug addiction or strange behavior in order to really get my psyche working in a new dimension for my family, for my people, for my society. Okay, great. And now here it is, the fixed sign of Taurus, you guys. Aquarius is the traditional sign of Uranus, and it is also a fixed sign. So as you can see, Uranus is not really at a qualm with either Aries or Taurus, but it does not prefer either one, because in Aries it had fire and Taurus has got a fixed disposition. But the thing here is that it is still in the middle, it's still in between, and guess where that is? That's on the degree where we are not quite sure whether we made it or not. Okay, it's like we have launched ourselves at each other, we have launched ourselves at the world, and here in these early degrees between Aries and Taurus, we don't quite know if we have truly done the job or if we have probably corrupted ourselves, if the change was really worth it or not. And trust yourself to have led you here, however you've come, and to feel okay about it. Okay, so you've come out from maybe years of abuse, maybe you've come out from years of certain dispositions, behaviors, patterns, and a certain type of psyche. Okay, you have come through, and here in Taurus Uranus, at the beginning of Taurus Uranus, at the beginning of Taurus, you have got a very incredible scheme here, a very incredible chance to really depict yourself well and to see yourself as perfect, no matter who you were before or after Aries Uranus transit, no matter how you've done, no matter if it took you years to really voice your opinion or if it took you such a long time to really connect to the loved ones in your family, doesn't matter. In Taurus Uranus, we now have to prepare ourselves for the works, as we are not going to get exactly what we've done in a few years of Aries Uranus, but we're going to get something that mirrors it almost perfectly. So last 8 years, 7 to 8 years, your life will probably get a sort of answer, an echo from the world. So however you've done in the last 8 years, 7, 8 years, will now be represented through the abundance and the evolution of the physical mind, or the pragmatic mind, or the guru of money mind of Taurus. So here you are basically bringing to yourself what you were worth in those 7 years, or 7 or 8 years of progress of your evolution, as Uranus became your best friend to really form your own self. And here now, basically, we just have to be at peace, because if we're not at peace, and if we're looking at ourselves through space and time as a disaster, if we are closing our ears, if we don't want to see, we don't want to hear, we're afraid of our look, or we're afraid of our body, it is not going to give us what we want. So if you can listen to yourself 7 or 8 years ago, if you got recordings, what were you after? Have a look. Facebook is a great resource here. Say 2010, 2011 and 12. Where were you? Like, what you were doing? Because that's going to echo in the physical, practical sense to you now. And perhaps when you're asking, why did this go wrong? Or why did I not even expect this, but it just landed in my lap? It's because you've worked for it, and you probably worked hard. The people that are going to get the most here are not actually the ones that have put in the most physical, tangible or spiritual work. They're just going to be the ones with the open heart. The ones that kept their hearts open during Aries Uranus, and that have developed change through their own innocent means. So the ones who have stayed relatively innocent and not knowing as to who they were and where they were going are going to get the works. But if you weren't, and if you kept on pulling yourself aside and telling yourself off and giving yourself bad advice and trying to put yourself into the prism of another person, and if you try to compromise more than you try to be you, by the end of Aries Uranus you might already feel uncomfortable. And this is actually incredible because we are in a dog year as this change is happening, and there is so much perspective opening up to all of us where we are tugged along, we are given praise for nothing, you know, millennial culture, you know, being given applause and trophies, and we are told that we are great. But then there's also a lot which does not give us that much, and we medicate through it. We medicate through social media, we medicate through our bank accounts, through Bitcoin, through lots of different things. So we are trying to run from and into the arms of something new. And in Taurus Uranus, and also with this Jupiter that was retrograde in Scorpio, it's so easy, it is so easy to just plunge into the arms of someone else and to say, hold me. Because you see, Taurus here is a very, very sensitive sign, and it is now the 12th house as we just switched into Gemini. It is a very sensitive sign, and it is so easy to be pushed into a situation where you are sheep to the slaughter, you're the lamb to the slaughter, and the other person or the company or the situation which gives you support, money and time is the wolf. And it's also very, very, very nasty time to let another define you. It's very nasty. But the best thing that we can do here is not nurture that which is going to come from above. Because in a sense it is, you know, it's going to be a mirror of what you've already done. It's just more about, oh, okay, I understand now. Say like, okay, 7 to like 8 years ago, I have designed this. And this is why my business works so well. Or like, okay, 7 to 8 years ago, I have really wanted to start myself up in a different direction. And I have taken myself to the limit. Okay, you know, we had this expansion from about 2010, for some even 29, which has really taken our psyche in a completely different direction. And for some people it was in the truth and in the heart. And here you might find yourself, or you may find yourself not. You may just find yourself better connected to the future of your family, or better connected to the conditioning of this world. I mean, it is not really like a right or wrong thing here, but the main thing is how honest and obvious were you to yourself? And how honest and obvious is your income now? Or what is the world reflecting to you? So it's not to look at another to give, because if you were meant to receive, and if you programmed it right, you will inevitably get what you need. But if you weren't, and if you, say in the last 7 or 8 years, really wanted to remain the same, and if you didn't like to change and you made fun of people that did, or if you really didn't care, and you don't really want to develop any truth, it may not be the obvious choice, perhaps, but the best is not to contain the physical now. The lesson of change is no longer in who you are. We have a lot of people falling head over heels with the new age again, but it's gone. So like the big new age push is gonna come back, but it has gone. It is now in the mellow, it is now in a more socially climatizing phase. It is not really in the truth and the guts of it. So to look for yourself right now in the dog year is not the right choice. So with a spiritual journey, you will find that there is a lot of loops here and not many supportive energies, but you are welcome to explore yourself further. It's just the lesson of change is not in the self, it is more in what you deserve. And here I feel the darkness is the light in the same place, and that is to trust that which is already kind of programmed to come in for you. So the most beautiful part of this is that I don't mind, okay? Because in Aries Uranus, I did not know how to else do but with the full heart, okay? So then when I go into Taurus Uranus, I don't know, and that's okay. So we were meant to be born anew into a new sense of innocence during Aries Uranus. And if you can also, even though you might be counting dollars and cents, or you might be counting on people, you might be counting on a lot of things, just trust, even if Aries Uranus did not really have a lot of heart for you, or you didn't really have a lot of heart for it, or you didn't understand, or you didn't want to evolve, that's okay. The practical joke of Uranus Taurus is that people don't really like to question sometimes what they gain, what they get. But here is where we're going to have to start to question the air, the pollution, to question what is in the ingredients of this drink. We have to start questioning each other's idea on money and financial outcome and what we really truly need as people to be comfortable. We're going to also, I feel, have to question ourselves as to who we've come to be through the cultural conditioning of our country, of our people, as to who you are if you have this much. It's a huge revolutionary thing. But the biggest sign of change I feel, to me, is of course the resources need to be understood. Okay, the resources, the raw resources need to be saved and understood, not the wallet. And I feel that most of us will go into some kind of like clan mode or clan mentality where we are trying to reserve a previous sense of wealth but in a different way. So people are going to start playing around with what money is. People are going to start playing around with how wealth can be made or what wealth could be gained through. But if you are not connected and if you are not naturally worth yourself, does it make sense? If you're not worthy of yourself, you don't feel good after Uranus has been through Aries, money is either something that doesn't quite connect, or it could be something that does, but it doesn't give you the right results. And it could be sad money or happy money, but that ends really quickly. So there could be lots of different ways in which money can abide different laws, and it can have a different system. But the main thing that we're really asked to do here with Uranus and Taurus is to really look at our resources and to look at our world and what we gain through the natural and the more I suppose spiritually evolved ways of life, without trying to create a new age mecca, without say moving all our friends to Ubud or Bali, without needing to make ourselves into a certain type of hero or certain type of cultural class. It is not very easy to see, but money and things that are very pleasant will become very corrupting and corruptible. I also think that nature is going to get corrupted and recreated or reformed. Very, 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 very careful and kind to yourself in terms of anything new on the market. If you're a person who likes to get facial surgery injections, if you are trying new products, especially miracle cures, new injectables, anything like that, if you are doing something like this, please, please, please try to be as careful as you can with anything that does not come from nature. All things that come from the mind, it is very easy here to shortcut and develop new products for less, and all of these types of things that give you the result of something that used to be very, very expensive and now is not. So people are trying to shortcut themselves and others by creating substitute materials, and it feels to me that it is very, 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 very fine line here. Stick to the natural, think about nature, think about what is right. It is so easy to create substitute things here. It's very, very harmful though for you and for the environment. So have a look as to how the new products or that which you're craving really substitutes you. So it is not easy here to also see, for example, if with Uranus and Aries you have tried to be somebody else, or you try to fit in with the culture or the clique, and Uranus Taurus, it might also have a similar effect, but you can improve. And improvement is through connection to God and through the acceptance and the abundance of the natural world. So having a look as to how you can perhaps see your journey in retrospect. Sometimes it is nice to take a memory lane, think about 7 or 8 years before the time that you are having now. Think as to how you have evolved, why you have chosen what you've chosen, what are the repeating patterns in your life, why you have done something in the past which could probably be just reflecting now in the future, and or in the now, I guess, and what is it that you are really trying to solve when you would like to connect to that which is not true and not deeply sincere to you. That's another thing. It's very easy to find a job that doesn't suit you. It's very easy to find a person that provides for you but doesn't actually care. It's so super easy to eat a lot of junk food. It's so super easy to create an idea that you can control your world. Taurus, we're all babies in Taurus. Well, Aries is the baby, but Taurus is like the mouth. It's like, I want, I need. It's not really something that we can have full, righteous and strengthening level of charisma with. We can't really have the charisma that perhaps we require for certain things here. If we want something, or if we have a desire, or even if we fall in love with someone, sometimes it's beyond us here. We can be very easily led and misled by the media, the government, everything like that. It is so easy. It's like taking candy from a baby, basically. So if you are not sure, okay, if you are looking at your past 7 or 8 years and you're going, yeah, okay, so I've done this and I've done that, and I can kind of see how it benefits me, and I can kind of see why I had to, for example, do a dark few years, or if I had to be a bit out of mind for a while, or I had to be out of sorts, so I had to travel. And now that I'm here, I can connect to greater consolidation in Uranus Taurus. But here, like, if you aren't sure and you can't see why and you have regrets, please, if you can, see the story in the last while philosophically, the developmental time during Aries Uranus. Just look at it as a philosophical tale, which probably has a very amazing ending. And here it is really, really good with Uranus Taurus to start to really live with trust and faith, and however you feel fit, you know. For some people it is God, for some people it's nature, for some people it's the beings, you know, through and through. It's lots of different things for lots of different folks. I feel that the best is a more abstract view of life, of just trust, without having to center yourself in any kind of deity or any kind of law of life. But for some it's not, so it depends. Everybody's different, okay, and everybody has come out of Uranus Aries differently. But the main concept now is not to look back too much, but if you're not sure as to why, have a look. So for example, very broad, okay, so 7 or 8 years ago you could have betrayed your homeland and, for example, stayed with a person on the other side of the world, not calling your parents, not keeping in touch with your friends, you know, and say you lived in a different country and you've decided to chop everything off and you haven't thought about them and you felt that this would give you the most. But then now you may see that now you're an entrepreneur, or you're a counselor, or you're a person, but you don't have many people come to you. And it is very, very difficult to be seen or heard, yet the money comes in for bravery that you have exposed yourself to in last transit. For instance, if you are starting out a business and you're not sure why it's not bringing in anymore, like why it's so hard to get yourself connected to the financial cycles, why it's so difficult to see the climate, why it's so easy for other people to understand how money works these days because it's changing its course, but why for you it's difficult? Because maybe when you were growing into yourself, say 7 or 8 years ago, you might have not seen that a lot of people were really trying and they really wanted to do things that perhaps to you might now be amazing, but at the time were a joke. And you could have even made yourself very superior or even more resounding with your job and more enticed with the physical, materialistic or social meanings of who you felt you were at the time. So you have defined yourself before you really gave yourself the chance to shine and to break through any conditioning of the past. And here you might see that you don't know how the market works. You do not know perhaps how people communicate or how to really get your worth. So money goes through an abandonment issue here for those who have perhaps abandoned another, and perhaps for those that haven't done that much harm, but that have not really linked anything and they did not want to feel responsible, they didn't really want to feel alive as Uranus was going through Aries, they might not want to perhaps go to the highest height. So there's lots of different value systems here opening. We can really climb, we can really go through, we can really, like, seriously, the path is yours to take. Okay, you can upheave the previous system of what you could receive or what was possible. You can really jump higher now. But for those people who did not feel like they could then try, and they just sort of sidestepped and kind of went, oh, you know, everybody's going crazy, what is this? If you kept it safe during Uranus and Aries, you might not get the medals now, or you might only climb very little. But the thing is, the system is gone. And I feel that a lot of us maybe understand that there is no such thing as money really now. It's got a different system, it's got a different system of abundance, it's a different beat to it. I feel that the most explosive people are better at it at the moment. So it had a shadow about it, it had a bank account sense, it had a previously conceived sense, kept saved and contained, but it feels to me that now money is going to try to play a different game. There is a lot of worth and lack, there is a lot of almost like a upbeat feeling about it. There is almost a feeling of discontent with it. You know, it's almost like money doesn't want to be itself, and it wants to play on a different wave itself as an entity or as a being. So with us looking at abundance, we might actually find that money does not exist for us anymore, that actually abundance is within completely different means and measures. And then for others, it may be that you do not have anywhere near as much as you had, but somehow your whole world is a lot more rounded and much better. For other people, it might be that you perhaps have much more than you had before, and you have no idea how this come to be or what to even do with this. And for others, it could be a completely like a completely different ball game. Okay, you might not be able to work in the previous job, you have to change jobs and things like that. It all matches. Basically, it all just measures to the previous 7-8 years and the cycles that you have connected to in Aries, Uranus, how you went along, how you tried, did you try, did you say what you felt, did you have a meltdown, did you have a truth, if you really, really wanted to succeed as yourself, if you really, really wanted to be perhaps kinder, better, more loving, if you wanted to expect more, you know, expect more and feel more open to God, you know, to life, to creation, if you really felt it. Here in Taurus Uranus, you will likely receive a lot more than you expect, but don't become somebody who is higher than thou or mightier than thou, because Uranus connects more to serendipity and to the feeling of youth and uncertainties. Like, I don't you know, but if you have done some bad things, don't worry. Basically now, look at your life if you want, you know, before Jupiter goes direct, maybe on the 10th of June, maybe not, you know, I don't know, it's your choice. It's good to look at yourself and forgive yourself, and to confess or to complain or to say a few things to other people, but stay centered. So don't go blaming the government, so don't go blaming other people. And also, definitely, if there are people that are destined somehow in some way, in a weird sense, to corrupt nature and to create a few products that are a joke, and people that are playing with bartering like it was a really funny game when other people are starving, don't get involved, don't complain, because there are lots of ways as this will balance out later, and as we have Uranus going for other signs, it will all connect. So it is a rhythmical karmic thing, and it should not be considered as an omen. But there is no way of doing it but through trust, I feel. There are ways that people can now push through, like say they hear the market is changing, the beauty industry is changing, or the food industry is changing. I'm really going to take the bull by the horns in Taurus, Uranus, and I'm going to start making money, say out of cheap perfume or cheap clothes or, cheap something. But really be careful, unless you are destined for it and it just came to you automatically. Please don't try to shake the tree. Please don't commit to things that are not for you, basically, just to keep things in balance. If you care to find your way, also, faith in you, okay? Faith in what you've done, and also the changes that you have evolved through the past few years perhaps will guide you as to what is the most natural career choice for you if you haven't found it. And I hope that you do well. So thank you very much. Make the most of what you have found about yourself in Uranus, what you have found out about your body, about your strength, about your self-esteem. And I hope that Uranus and Taurus treats you well. Thank you very much. All the details are in the caption section below. And if you'd like to get a reading, have a look at my website. Also got free daily blog and things like that. So thank you very much. Enjoy your transit. Bye.